IVM.
Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach Podcast, the bite-sized podcast filled with quick and easy actionable habits. Remember, great habits create that awesome life. I am Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach. And today's fun fact of the day has to do with mirrors. Did you know that the first mirrors were made of water? And these mirrors consisted of a bowl that had the inside painted black and then water was filled in it. Now, the idea was to create the same effect that we get when we look at our reflection in a dark lake or a pond. And these mirrors were replaced by black volcanic glass that was polished to form a reflective surface. Later on, we made copper discs that were polished to that reflective surface. And these are what we see in the Egyptian and Mesopotamian ages. As soon as a culture had a mirror, it allowed them to look at themselves, change themselves, dress up or accentuate aspects of themselves. While earlier they would have relied on others to help them, the mirror gave them the ability to do it for themselves. And we see ourselves differently now because we have mirrors in our lives. We have the desire to change, improve, and get better when we see ourselves the way somebody else sees us. Now, this episode was inspired by a quote that I read on Instagram. It was attributed to Aristotle, and I've gone mad trying to find and verify if it was really him saying it or not, because as we know, we can't blindly follow things on Instagram. So the quote was that wisdom is an equal measure of experience plus reflection. So let's break it down. Wisdom is something that we all want in our lives. We want to be able to make wise choices, give wise advice, live a life of wisdom. However, we do not become wise by sitting in our chairs and watching Netflix or a documentary on the History Channel. That is just information. That is just knowledge. But we become wise through experience. That means getting out of that chair, getting out of that home and actually experiencing the world around you, trying new things, making new mistakes, making new friends and new acquaintances, going on adventures. These are the things that most of us don't do. We do not spend time doing new things each day. Our lives are fairly routine and set. However, if you get into the habit of trying something new each day, you then end up growing with experience. Now, the next thing that we need to do is reflect. And what does this mean? How are we supposed to reflect? Most of us just react to experiences that take place in our life. We try something new and it fails and we immediately react. And either we think we're not good enough or we blame the other person. We are trapped in this whole stimulus and reaction phase. As soon as something happens, without thinking, we end up reacting to it. Look at how much anger there is in the world today. Why are people so constantly reacting and becoming so angry with all the experiences around them? Had a bad experience in a restaurant, and I have to immediately tell 45 people who follow me on Twitter about it. Now, ask yourself, is that wise? Is there wisdom in reacting that way? And that is where the second part comes in, reflection. Reflection is the ability to look at oneself and our own thoughts and feelings. Reflection is like holding up a mirror to your mind and seeing what is really going on there. Now, I know what you're thinking, that most of us spend our lives overthinking and obsessed over what is happening or what is going on. And this turns into anxiety and sadness. And you're absolutely right. This is because we're looking at our actions or our lives with a very biased view. The key to reflection is to have an unbiased view of your mind. See things as they are without it being distorted. And we've all been to a circus where we've seen those mirrors that make us look short or tall or fat. Those are distortions. We need to teach ourselves to reflect without bias and without distortion. And we do this with practice because it takes time to get good at cleaning the mirror for your mind and actually reflecting well. So your super simple habit starts by choosing a quiet time each day for your reflections. Ideally, first thing in the morning or last thing at night. Then sit and just think about an experience you had that day or recently. Observe the events with complete clarity without allowing any beliefs to cloud your judgment or any preconceived notions to come. Think about what you learned from that experience. Think about what you will do differently next time. And in the same way as the invention of the mirror changed the way we approached our physical selves, the habit of reflection can change the way we approach our mental selves. Usually in a podcast, it's me who speaks to you and you who listens. But I've been seeing your comments, and it's time. It's me listening to you. Following the overwhelming success of this podcast, the good folks at IVM Podcast Network have decided to come up with a Kannada adaptation of the show for those who prefer listening to it in that language. Do make sure you let your Kannada speaking friends know about this as well. Now, if you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I am at Ashdin Doc on Twitter and Instagram. We have a brand new habit coaching online course, quizzes, videos, and a lot more on the website awesome180.com. So check it out now.
Hello, everybody. It's been another awesome, great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Cyrus Says Cock and Bull, Cyrus, Naveen, Anirudh, and Antarish discuss how Snoop Dogg gave his personal blunt roller a pay hike because of inflation. On Simplified, Chuck and Shrika take a look at Facebook COO Sheryl Sandberg's legacy. On Pesa Vesa, Anupam talks to Vijay Mantri. He is the co-founder and chief investment strategy at JRL Money. They debunk the myth of active versus passive investing. On the Life Manifesto, Zarina teaches us the value of a good leader through the story The Emperor's New Clothes. And on Smarter with Sid, Siddharth explains how power dressing works. We got some exciting news for you. IVM Podcast has just launched its merch line, and you should check it out now. Head over to the IVM Podcast website, that's ivmpodcast.com, and click on the shop tab to check out our first collection of t-shirts. Also, do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. That really does help. Don't forget to rate us on any of the platforms you're listening to us on. And also do remember, you can check out a number of our shows on YouTube. You can go to ivmpodcast.com/YouTube to get a list of the channels that we are keeping active. We also are doing a small listener survey. If you could go to ivmpodcast.com/survey to fill this out, it'll just take a few minutes and it really helps us out. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, SBI Life Insurance, Apne Liye, Apno Ke Liye. Jupiter, a digital banking app. Capgemini, get the future you want. Intel vPro, built for business. And Intel, future but now wonderful with Intel-powered laptops. There's a quick survey to fill out on ivmpodcast.com/survey. It lets us know a little bit more about who's listening to us. And you know what? We're going to do a few prizes. So, we'll do a random drawing of maybe 10 people and we'll send you all some swag. Remember, that's ivmpodcast.com/survey where you can fill out the